So yeah, let's feel free to share in the chat box just 3 emojis of how your day has been while we wait for others to join. I can't wait to see what people share. Okay, so we have some more people joining. Interesting. Gifty is the first to go. Gifty, can you come off mute and share with us, decode the story for us? Gifty, are you with us? Wow, fat. That is strange. The first one is strange. Anyway, I'm waiting for some more people. For those who are just joining, yeah, I want you to share 3 emojis that tells a story of how your day has been. Solomon, I can see you. You are welcome. John Okra, I can see you. You are welcome. Adam Sahin, it's been a while. You're welcome. Okay, so I want to see some more reactions in the chat box. Sahin, you are laughing, but I want to see how your day has been. Express through emojis. So yeah, I want to see you in the chat box while we wait for some more people to join in 1 more minute. Jeffrey, you are welcome. I can see you are connecting. Mr. Mohammed, you are welcome. Florence. Interesting. So now I can share my screen. Okay. Awesome. Fat, how's your day been? Decode your story to us.
Well, so I used what's it called? 2 emojis, right? And then from how my voice sounds, the day didn't really start on a good note for me, but now I think it's quite smooth. So that's why I have a weird emoji as the first one, and then a smiley one as the second one.
Interesting. So at least you are ending the day on a good note. Awesome. Good to hear. Anyone else? I could see Okra, John Okra. Wow. John, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, John, can you decode your emoji to us? I can see some eyes closed. I don't know why. How have you been?
The school compound and the house. So
And how has your day been?
it was not all that bad. But it's that I'm so tired.
Wow, interesting. I hope by the end of this session you'll be energized. Don't worry. Interesting. Anyway, so welcome all of you once again to this session. Because of time, I think we'll quickly step in. But for all of you joining, feel free to make good use of this space. I want to see you actively get involved in the chat box. At certain points, I'll call on you to also contribute or share your thoughts, right, to issues that will be popping up here. So feel free. Let's make it an interactive space. So to get started, I think that as part of our Dream Sports model, which has 3 core areas. Number 1, educational equity, sports leadership, and the third being keeping sports safe. I think we all have that understanding that keeping sports safe and keeping sports safe is very important and is core to our work at EduSports. And if you have gone through the challenge for the month of July, just to quickly share my screen so that we can walk through that before I even start with the training regarding the resources. So sorry, give me a minute. Trying to find that. Okay, I think I can get that here. That is it. Interesting. I hope you can all see my screen.
Crystal clear.
Awesome. So yeah, just to walk us through the core requirements for this month before we even start with the contents or the resources that we'll be using. So the first being that for this month, across July and August, we are focusing on keeping sports safe for sport leadership, and this is mandatory and cuts across with all sports, with all learners involved and with all catalysts involved. So let's just go in. Let's look at the ins and outs. So we will be giving or officially recognizing all sports who will organize the safeguarding training, or what we also refer to as the keeping sports safe training. And it's taking place at 3 levels. So the first level is with the learners, and that's happening in July. Then the second will take place in August, and that happens with the community itself. So the parents, you can think of the sports management committee, you can think of the relevant stakeholders that you have in your community who are actively involved in our work. And of course, everyone in the community is also actively involved or should be actively engaged. Then the third bit being that will be in September when schools resume, we'll be focusing on training among ourselves as catalysts and also among teachers if it's a school-based sport. So these are the 3 levels. In July, all learners must receive keeping sports safe training, or they must go through this particular training. In August, we target the community, go into the community and organize the training or engage the community in keeping sports safe or wider child protection. Then in September, we actively engage ourselves as catalysts, go through our policies and actually understand and identify areas in our sports that we really need to be strict on when it comes to child protection and safeguarding. So basically, these are the 3 things. I'll go into details as we go along. So yeah, start of July. So what we have started now is to launch us into that terrain of keeping sports safe. So we have started with our training. Today we'll go through the resources. We'll be familiar with what is expected, how to deliver the session with the learners. By the end of July, we should be planning to engage the community, and that is by the end of July. By the end of July, we should have engaged learners. By the start of July, we should be planning to engage communities. Now, by the end of August, we should have engaged the communities, and by the end of August again, we should receive our certificates or provide evidence for certification that we have done the safeguarding. So actually, by September, when we have gone through all the 3 phases, our regional coordinators will meet with us, discuss with us, and then we can receive our certification. So please, let's take notes. Just to clarify again, at the beginning of July, we do the training with the learners. All learners, if it's a school-based sport, all learners must be involved. By the end of July, we are done with the training. By the end of August, we have actively engaged communities. By the beginning of August, you are planning how to engage the communities. By the beginning of September, you have actively engaged yourself as catalysts in the safeguard or keeping sports safe activity. So this is the rundown when it comes to keeping sports safe. So let's go back to our resource and explore what we have. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. Great. Okay, so keeping sports safe. Now, if you look at the WhatsApp feed, we posted the facilitator notes on the WhatsApp feed. At this point, it will be helpful if you have yours in hand. It could be that you are using your phone, so you may not have the capacity to switch between the facilitator notes and the what we are doing now. That's fine. But if you're able to do that, that would be great so that we can go through it together. If not, I'm going to use the training slide. So this is the training slides. If you have a projector at your spot, this is what you'll be using. If not, we are making provision for you to have a hard copy of these resources. Alongside that, as I mentioned, you have the facilitator notes to guide you in the process and to give you further details as to how you can facilitate the session. So just to clarify the resources that we have, this is what you actually project, right? But then the facilitator notes gives you in-depth details, or it guides you as to how you are going to facilitate the session. So by way of going through the facilitator note, let's first look at the pre-session checklist. So just to ask, as a starter, just to ask, what do you think you should do before you start your keeping sports safe training with the learners? What do you think you should do before you start your keeping sports safe training with your learners? You can either come off mute, you can type in the chat box, or I can randomly call anyone because I am on the floor. So, all right. So please, at this point, my question is, what do you think you should do before you start your training session with learners? What do you think you should do before you start your training session with learners?
Lawrence, it's more like my
Sorry.
yeah, my reader is moving towards Solomon Lati.
Okay. He just joined, I think.
Sure.
Yes.
Yes, I just joined.
That's fine.
All right. Anyone, because we want to feel that you are with us in this space. So please, I don't want to pick on anyone, but I want to see either in the chat box or someone coming off mute. The question is, what should you do before you start your keeping sports safe training with learners? Anyone to come off mute and share with us? Okay, I can see. Okay, Solomon says, I think you will need to inform them first. Solomon, do you want to add some voice to this? Come off mute and add some voice to this, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Before you start the training with the case, I believe, or I think that, first of all, there needs to be an education to the case about how you are going to teach them about keeping the sports safe. So you need to inform them so that they'll be aware that you are going to organize a training on keeping the sports safe. That's
Interesting.
what I think.
Interesting. Thank you very much. So the first from Solomon, you need to pre-inform the learners, right? You need to give them a heads up that on this particular day, we are going to do this particular training on keeping sports safe. So you give them that head up so that, because they would also have to plan, right? So that's a good point. Nimatu says you should train the catalyst first before you train the learners. Nimatu, can you come off mute and share with us? Add your voice to this, please. You should train the catalyst first before you train the learners. In what specific areas? In what specific areas? Or what specifically do you do this training on? Nimatu, are you with us? Okay. Then I'm going to call Mr. Gabriel Katabo. Can you explain to us why catalysts must first meet before the training? Okay, Nimatu, that's fine. Gabriel, are you with us? Gabriel Katabo.
Yes, please.
Yes. Add your voice to this, please.
Okay. To me, if like catalysts were trained before the learners, maybe they may also have more knowledge about how to keep our sports safe, so that during the training of the learners, they can also add their voice and also give more reason to the sports safety. That's what I've seen about the training our catalyst first for the decision. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Gabriel, for sharing. So the understanding is that you pre-inform the learners, then you also meet as catalysts to go through the content, because you need to have mastery over the content before then you step into the space to deliver. Right. So if you look into the facilitator notes, and if as I mentioned, if you have it with you, it will be good for us to go through it together. The first thing for us, as you've already mentioned, but then if you look into the facilitator note, we have the pre-session checklist. So for school-based sports, it is important that you have the consent and support of the head teacher before you even plan or even organize the training. Okay. And not only the head teacher, but then other staff. And most importantly, you target the girl-child coordinator, the guidance and counseling coordinator, if the school is a school-based sport. Now, we've had some consultations and we realized that in line with the Ghana Education Service policy, the girl-child coordinator and the guidance and counseling coordinator are more like the keeping sports safe lead in your school. So it wouldn't be nice if you just want to do a training of that nature and not inform them. So number one, you seek consent from your head teacher, and that is what we want you to do right after this meeting if you have not done it, that you contact your head teacher to seek their consent and actively get them involved in the training, getting them to know the benefits. Then you also engage the girl-child coordinator. Of course, you can do that through the head teacher. And I realized that while I was in school, while I was teaching at school, normally when you come with something like this, the head teacher himself will invite the girl-child coordinator or the guidance and counseling coordinator to come to the office, and then you all plan everything together. You don't stop there, but then you also try to involve other staff. Then you also schedule and conduct a brief meeting, as Nimatu said, with all catalysts. So here you go through the training. Now you realize that the training has different parts. So it is important that you walk through the training and then you allot or apportion different parts of the training to yourself. Okay, so Mr. Katabo, you are going to lead from point A to point B. From here, Nimatu, you will take over from point C to point D. So you spread responsibility so that everything does not center on one person with good understanding of the content. It boils down to reviewing the training slides together, assign training part to catalysts. I've mentioned that already. Then you emphasize the importance of being playful and approachable. And I believe that forms part of our values, right? And it's also a key principle when it comes to EduSport, that as a catalyst, you are approachable. As a team, you discuss how that you are going to relate with the learners in that particular space, how that you are going to be open-minded and listen or actively listen to their concerns during the training. So you discuss all of that. And I'm glad that someone added in the chat box, if I can read that quickly. The person said that, yeah, on the D, they start off the session with an energizer, that is Rafia Jibril, then ask for their ideas on terms like safeguarding, etc. That's a good point. So you start with an icebreaker, which is a good, so you have to also think of, okay, what are some of the activities that we can do to energize the place and get everyone actively participating? Then, most importantly, I want to emphasize on this point, catalysts should guide discussions away from sensitive information and avoid sharing explicit details during the training. Now, some of the issues we are going to discuss are very sensitive. So as catalysts, in your pre-session checklist or in your pre-session meeting, it is important for you to discuss if a sensitive issue comes up. For example, all of a sudden, a child begins to open up on how that's, he or she has been molested in a way. How are you going to guide the conversation away from that in order not to create further issues? So some, sensitive issues should be guarded, and you should have the mastery and the skill to be able to do that. And in the training, if you go through the facilitator notes, you realize that at points we'll be expecting that all catalysts will be part of the various groups to guide discussions so that everything is rounded on what's specifically is meant to be discussed, so that learners are not, going astray in any way, so to speak. So let's go back. So these are pre-session checklist of things that we are supposed to do. Now let's go back to our content or the slides. If you just joined, I've mentioned that this is what you'll be projecting. If you don't have a projector, we hope that you have a projector. But then if you don't, I think we should go back to the facilitator notes because there are some other points to share here. Yeah, I shouldn't be quick to jump into the training session, but let's also look at the space itself. So in pre-informing the learners, you also will need to arrange the space. Now, EduSport, we believe in, learning collaboratively, learner-centered approach to, knowledge construction and coming up with ideas. And that largely depends on how well you set up the space to send a signal of the kind of activities that will be done within the space. So we encourage that before the session, you arrange the space in a collaborative setup. If you've come for Catalyze National Conference, you know how we do our education, or we do educational delivery. So you set up that space in a collaborative teamwork approach. Then you greet learners, you introduce them into the space. You can read all of that. Most importantly, relationship building in that space is very important. Now, most of us, our learners know us as Sir Gabriel Katabu, Mr. Solomon Yorson, Mr. Solomon Lati. But beyond that, they don't really know who we are. They don't really know what does Madam Janet love to do when she's at home. Madam Janet, what do you love to do when you're at home? What do your learners know about you beyond the classroom, beyond the board? So in that space, you want to also build some relationship with the learners. So all the catalysts, you can introduce yourself, and when you introduce yourself, you can share fun facts. My name is Madam Janet. I love to play the piano, or I love to sing when I'm alone, or something fun about yourself. I love to travel, so that the learners will also get to know you beyond the classroom. That kind of playful atmosphere. All right, cool. Now let's look at the video. So I'm going back to our slides, and then we can watch a video to continue. And I've posted that video. I don't know whether we'll have time to watch it, but I hope we can all see my screen. Seidu, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. So back to our training. What's ahead? So we are now in the space. We've started the session. We've introduced ourselves as catalysts. Of course, you can give opportunity for the learners to also introduce themselves. Now, what's ahead? So you walk the learners through the core objectives or the reasons why they are having the training in the first place, right? To heighten their expectation, to understanding safety and well-being, practical steps to keep our sports safe, understanding who a child is, exploring desired behaviors, understanding abuse. Let's continue. My slides are not moving. Telling people about abuse, case study discussion, tips and guidelines for staying safe online. I don't want to go into details because of time. So that is it. Now let's look at the boat is sinking. So this is a fun icebreaker. Again, you are not restricted to this, but it is highly encouraged that you go with this, because then we have designed it in such a way that it ties to the purpose for the session. Okay, for those of you who are at Catalyze, we did this. So most of you are familiar with how this game works. But then let's watch the video for the sake of those who don't know how it works, so that we can all have a fair understanding of how this video works. Because the importance is that it links to the training, or it gets the learners in the mood to start the training. So let's quickly watch the video of how it works. After that, I'll call on people to share with me what they saw in the video. So please be alert. Sorry, why is this? Okay. Great. So let's watch the video. I hope you can see my screen, right? Can you see my screen?
No, not at the moment.
Why am I being slow? Okay. Okay, so let's watch the video quickly. Watch the video. Okay, cinema mood. Please get set. Okay, so I'm going back.
Move yourselves to 1. May mga sensitive yung mga. Move yourselves into 3. 1, 2, 3. Into 5. Out na! Eh, kompleto. Kompleto ka rin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go! Out! Out! Eh, ito natira. Sabi ko 6. Ito natira.
Great. Awesome. So I've cut it short. I've uploaded a video on the WhatsApp feed, so please download it. I'm going to call on people to share what they saw in the video. Madam Florence, were you able to watch the video? What did you see? Madam Florence, are you with us? Okay. Madam Florence can hear. Daniel. Daniel, you are muted.
Me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, Daniel,
I
can
saw
hear
the
you.
learners grouping. Yeah. They were grouping themselves.
Awesome. They were grouping themselves. How were they grouping themselves? Adam
Yeah,
Sahini.
first.
Daniel, I'll call someone else. Adam Sahini, how were they grouping themselves?
Yeah, I saw them grouping themselves according to the instructions a facilitator was given.
Awesome. And after they grouped themselves, according to the instructions, what were the instructions? Festus, are you with us? Norman.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, Festus, take it.
So I think the instruction was they should group themselves in 6.
In 6. So they were grouping themselves in numbers, right? And what happens after? Please. What happens after they group themselves? Yvonne, Zilly, Yvonne, are you with us?
Hello.
Yes, please take it. Good afternoon, madam.
Yeah. Please, this thing was moving in a slow motion form, so I couldn't deduce what really was going on.
Interesting. Madam Yvonne, pick anyone you have met in EduSports and ask them to answer for you. Anyone, any of your beloved, anyone at all. Yes. Anyone.
Mr. Solomon Latte.
Okay. Mr. Solomon Latte, the boy is in your court. Let's wrap this up quickly. Mr. Solomon, are you with us? Mr. Solomon is not with us. Okay, then I'm going to call on Rita.
Yeah, I think after grouping, the facilitator went on to check if the grouping was active. Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you all for contributing. So when it comes to the boat to sinking activity, what we expect you do is that you call the number. So the boat is sinking, quickly group yourselves into numbers of 5. Okay, so you open the space, they group themselves into numbers of 5. Those who have not grouped themselves, or those who are outliers, or those who could not find a group to join, you make them answer a question related to safety and well-being. Okay, so the boat is sinking, quickly group yourself into numbers of 6. Then they quickly group themselves into numbers of 6. If someone is an outlier, the person answers a question. So, for example, what do you do when you are crossing the road? Okay, or what's the safest way to cross the street? Or share a dance move that always makes you smile. Or if you could turn into any animal to stay safe, which one would you choose? What's your favorite way to show someone you care about them? And you find some of these questions in the facilitator notes. And it is highly encouraged that you can add your own questions, but make sure it is related to safety. So instead of asking the learner to just sit down and not be part, which is what we saw in the video, you rather allow the learner to say something that ties to the box. Give me a thumbs up if you get this in the chat box. Awesome. Okay, so let's go back to our training. Let's go back to our slides. Let's go back to our slides. So after you have done the activity, now you've gotten everyone energized. So what do you do next? Now you relay EduSport's commitments to keeping sports safe, right? And this is straightforward. So here you just relay EduSport's commitment to keeping sports safe. You emphasize that creating a safe environment for everyone is a top priority for EduSport. If it's a school-based sport, you can connect that to your school. That ensuring that every learner is safe is a top priority for your school. Okay, quickly. Now, what do you see in this particular slide? Imagine being part of a game of football where there are no rules on the playground. What could happen? How would you feel safe? I want you to carefully look at the two pictures. I want you in particular to look at the picture with the learners. What do you see? Anyone at all can come off mute and share. I'm just taking two reflections in 1 minute. Madam Janet, your hand is up, if I can see clearly.
In the learners, we see that everybody is doing his own thing, and no guide, no instructor. Yeah, that's what I see.
Interesting. No instructor. Adam Sahini, your hand is up. Thank you, Madam Janet.
Yeah, I could see that the learners are more prone to risk, because you could see someone up over there. What if he falls?
Interesting. Thank you, Adam Sahini. Yvonne, please take it quickly. This will be the last one.
Okay. I could see that the two pictures are different. The green grass, it's like they are doing the same thing. And the second picture, it's like everyone is doing whatever he or she likes. That's what I also see.
Thank you very much for sharing your reflections here. So it's the same thing you are going to do with the learners. You show them the image, then you ask them to reflect. Okay, so imagine being part of a game of football where there are no rules on the playground. What could happen? How would you feel safe? So in a game of football, you could get some responses like, people will be cheated, people will get hurt, and so on and so. So you could get a lot of reflections coming up, and no answer is wrong because that's how they see it. And even in this space, you realize that everyone's understanding of the image is different. But most importantly, you try to tie that to safety and well-being. Okay, so you could say something like, just as in the game of football, if there are no rules, people can just abuse others, people can get others hurt, someone can just injure someone, and then there will be no penalty of any sort, right? In the same vein, if we are in our learning space and there are no rules to keep us safe, or there are no principles to guide us, people can actually get hurt, and people might not have experienced the fun. Just as in the game of football, we experience the fun, fair play, because there are rules. In the same way in our sports, if there are no rules, or if there are no principles guiding how we can be safe, it means that everyone can just do what he or she wants, and people might not feel safe being in the place to have fun and to learn, right? So after you have done that, then you come here. Good. I'm going to take two people. We don't have time, but then I'm going to call on two people to quickly, in 30 seconds, read the dialogue. And I'm going to call on people who have not spoken yet. Unless you want to own up. Unless you want to own up. Oh, my dear Khadija, I can see you. Madam Khadija, read the first one for us.
Mom, why do I have to take my umbrella? Is it not even raining?
Okay, thank you, Madam Khadija. Mom, why do I have to take my umbrella? It's not even raining. Thank you. Okay, Madam Khadija, call someone. Call someone you love in EduSports to read the second part.
Madam Janet.
I object to Madam Janet. Madam Janet has spoken. Call someone else.
Sahini.
Sahini. Okay. Sahini has also spoken. Please call someone else.
Hey.
Yes.
Where is he?
Francis Atta, the
Where
ball
is
is in your court. Francis.
Where is Francis?
Yes. Francis, are you with us? Francis is not with us. I'll call Asana. Asana.
Okay.
Thank you, Khadija. Asana, are you with us?
Hello.
Yes, please read the second dialogue.
Even though it's sunny now, Kofi, the weather can change quickly by taking your umbrella. Are you prepared in case it rains later? Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. It's better to be safe than sorry. I'm done.
Thank you very much. So just as you did, just what we just did, role playing, right? So on this slide, invite two learners to come forward to role play what is happening. Okay, but most importantly, once they are done role playing, what you are going to do is that, how do you think this particular slide connects to safeguarding? I'm going to pick on someone to respond. Just one person. How do you think this slide or this dialogue relates to keeping sports safe or well-being or safety? What does it imply? That's my question. Mr. Kofi Boedi, what does it imply?
And so you see that it is dangerous to be exposed to the rain if the child is beaten by the rain. So it is safe to take an umbrella to protect yourself rather than to let yourself be beaten by the rain. So the mother has make sure that the child will be safe by first and foremost taking the umbrella before they are exposed to the rain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is perfectly said. So you relate this to proactivity, right? So you relate this to proactivity when it comes to well-being. It's about thinking ahead, right? So in this scenario, the mother is thinking ahead when it comes to what could potentially be, a kind of a risk to the son by giving that child the umbrella. So that's a good point. That's well said. Now let's look at the second analogy. Ernest. So the second analogy, because of time, I wanted to pick on Ernest, but I think because of time, I'll just quickly run through this. So the second analogy has to do with asking the learners, imagine you're helping your grandmother cook in the kitchen. A pot of soup is on the stove and you smell something burning. What would you do? So you realize that you are not just telling the learners what is happening, or you are not telling the learners, explicitly what they just should know, but you are using these images to elicit some responses and reflection. So the first part had to do with safety, and the first part had to do with understanding safety as involving an element of proactivity. Okay, thinking ahead of time, being proactive. Then the second one being the smoke detector analogy. You liken understanding safety to being a smoke detector. I know that in Ghana, smoke detectors are not common, but just to explain what a smoke detector is, so that you're also able to relay that. A smoke detector is like a small machine. I'm sure most of us already might have experience of what it is, but it's in the room. So for example, it could be a kitchen, and anytime it detects smoke, all right, too much smoke, it makes this loud alarm to alert people to escape. Okay, so you can use this analogy to relay the notion that understanding safety and well-being is like being a smoke detector. In other words, you are always alert for anything that might be harmful to yourself and to others. Because when in the event of fire, that smoke detector will not be spared. Okay, it will be burnt as well, and others will also get hurt. So in using this analogy, you are trying to explain that when it comes to understanding safety and well-being, it is not only about yourself, but you also think about others. Give me a thumbs up if you understand this, then we can continue, because I've actually used these two analogies to explain these two. So no need for us to go into further details, but give me a thumbs up in the chat box if you're actively following and you understand what is going on. I wish I could get about 30 thumbs up. I'm only seeing 2 people. Yes, I can see 3 now, 4. Okay. Yes, so it means you are 5. Awesome, fantastic. So let's continue. So here you use the analogy to explain proactive measures is 1, thinking ahead, taking step ahead of time before something happens. 2, prevention and intervention. We learn to spot things like the smoke detector. Then you alarm. So you talk to someone when you realize that something is not going on well. And then most important, you know who to tell. Let's continue. Now, keeping sports safe, then you relate to the learners that it is a shared responsibility. It's not a matter of just one person. Everyone must actively contribute to ensure that our sports are safe and that teachers and that everyone, our sports are safe and everyone is actively involved in the process of ensuring that sports are safe. And that includes teachers, edu-sports catalysts, parents, and even their own selves, as we have already explained. Let's continue. Now, this hand activity. Here, what you are going to do is that after you have established or after you've given them a good understanding of what safety and well-being entails, using the 3 indicators, here you give them sheets of paper. White, it could be plain sheets of paper. It could be that you they come to the space with their own, exercise books, right? But then here you explain that the purpose of the activity is for learners to understand all the core areas of keeping sports safe. Okay, so when you think of keeping sports safe, you can think of it from different dimensions or different angles. But what you want the learners to do here is that you want them to explore it themselves. Okay, so we are going to try this activity here right now. So I'm going to call on someone to be, yes, and of course you can share in the chat box as well quickly. But then I'm going to call on people who have not spoken yet. Adelaide, Madam Adelaide, you've not spoken. I've not heard from you. Yes, so let's quickly do this. 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, quickly. We are not tracing our hand, so we've traced our hand already. So the thumb represents, I don't want to go on the next slide. Okay, good. The thumb represents physical safety. So here you ask the learners to think about specific things they can do to make sure that the sport is safer in each area. So the thumb represents physical safety. Okay, so quickly, I want all of us to type in the chat box one practical thing that you think learners will be saying here for the thumb. In the chat box, if you are with me. Anticipated response. What do you think the learners will be saying for the thumb? What do you think they will be saying for the thumb? Physical safety. How do you think they will understand this? What do you think they will be saying? It could include all the funny responses you are thinking of now. Yes. The chat box is empty. Awesome. Solomon, no fighting in the sport. Thank you very much. Yes, what else? The thumb. Awesome. Constance says, keep sharp objects away from the spot. Don't put water on reading table. Make sure all sockets are insulated. Not carrying weapons or knives. That's dangerous. Avoid playing around. Laugh. Yes, laugh. Keeping sports safe. Yes, these are some of the responses that could become now. Hoping that never happens, of course, Kat. Not running around during lessons. Thank you very much. Yes, so these are some of the things the learners will be saying. So here, you take it one by one. You don't rush, or you don't just tell them, okay, sketch your hand, and then you project it. No. So you take it one step at a time. Okay, one step at a time. Let's go to the index finger. What do you think learners will be saying here? What do you think learners will be saying here? Index finger, emotional safety. What do you think learners will be saying here? Do not mock at each other. Thank you, Wadud. Being kind. I can see some people are not contributing. I'm going to call people now. Gloria, I can't hear. I've not heard from you. Jeffrey, I've not heard from you. No teasing. Yes. What else? No beating. No beating, I suppose, will go under. Okay, yeah, that could go under emotional safety. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. And we'll come to that. Yes, don't shout at others. Thank you very much. So you realize that, yeah, no insults. Thank you. Don't tease others or name calling. Interesting. So you realize that Mr. Kofi Boedi says no beating. But you realize that beating could also overlap with physical safety. Right. So you see that there could be some connections there, and we have to take note of that. Health and hygiene. So just to wrap up and get us going because of time, this is how you do it. So you take the fingers one step at a time, till they are done. Let's continue. Thank you all for contributing. It's getting interesting. So yes, and one thing that you do is that you explain to them what each finger means, because they might not understand what emotions are. They might not understand what it means. So you have to explain to them what emotions mean and break things down. So they take it one step at a time. And what this relays is that you are communicating to them all the aspects or the core areas that that could come to their attention when we talk about keeping sports safe. So when we talk about keeping sports safe, it's not an abstract concept, but it involves practical things, and the finger activity is meant to guide them as to how they can do this. But most importantly, when they are done, and you can refer to your facilitator notes, when they are done here, what you do is that, so this is an individual activity, okay? Let me clarify, it's an individual activity. Every learner will do this. So once they are done, you ask them to swap their hands. Okay, so I think we've done this. Normally in Ghanaian classrooms, it's common for us to do dictation. And then once you are done, you swap the paper with someone and then you mark someone else's sheet, right? So it's something similar. Once they are done, you swap the papers and then you call the learners to volunteer and share for each finger. So the thumb, what was written, index finger, what was written, middle finger, what was written, ring, what was written, little finger, what was written, right? So that is the sharing. Then after that, you summarize it and you ask the learners to keep their sketches as a reminder of the core things that we are supposed to keep safe, or as the core areas of keeping sports safe. So these are the practical things that we want to be seen. As part of the resources that will be given to you when we come on the sports visits, we are hoping that we'll be able to print the hand, right? So it will be visibly displayed at your spots to remind your learners that, look, if you are not practicing or keeping your spot safe, if you are forgetting the core aspects, this should serve as a reminder of the core aspects of keeping sport safe. Yes, we are making progress. Now let's look at the next section. What does it mean to be a child? Okay, what does it mean to be a child? Now here, I'm going to take reflections. I don't want to be the one talking. What did your childhood look like? I want you to type in the chat box. What did your childhood look like? What did your childhood look like? For you, what did childhood look like? It's a good question. I think here it would be good for us to take reflections. Can anyone share with us what your childhood looked like? I hope you can still see my screen. Kennedy, is my screen seen? Yeah. Okay. Cynthia. Yeah, I love Cynthia. She's always playing. Cynthia, what did childhood look like for you?
Lauren.
What did childhood look like for you?
Childhood was comfortable.
It was comfortable.
Yes. I had the chance to play, to read, to socialize, to be myself, to grow into a confident person. But I mean, all these things were done with, should I say, some rules that were meant to safeguard me from my parents. Like they gave me some rules to sort of protect me and all that. So I would say childhood was comfortable.
Interesting. Thank you, Cynthia. Gloria, it's been a long time. Good to see you here. Gloria Day.
Hi.
What did childhood look like? What were some of the things you were doing when we were a child?
I think when we were children, we felt like we were doing too much. We were enclaved or something. But as we go and reflect back, we see that we had free life. We were away from a lot of responsibilities and we were able to do whatever we want, although under a little supervision and direction. But now everything is up to us.
Wow. Interesting. It's like you are always, you don't have any burden. You are always, playing. You think the world is yours. you come home, you request for food. Some of us have kids, so we understand this well. And we've been kids before. So we know how this works. So here, what you want to do is that you want to ask the children quickly, and it shouldn't be long. It could be something small. They can write something small, or you can take some reflections, being what the child means to them. And here it is important for you to understand that what childhood means is different for everyone, okay? And we have to be sensitive. And we started this conversation around the lines of guiding away from sensitive conversation. And for some children, childhood could mean that helping their parents on the farm. For some children, childhood could mean that staying in the couch all day watching TV or playing PlayStation 5. Right. So and of course, all of us growing up, we have different experience of what childhood means to us. For some of us, childhood means that once we are done eating, rush to the kitchen and go and wash the utensils. And you realize that all of us have different experiences. So here you have to be sensitive and relay to them that the most important thing, and here you move on to the next slide, of what childhood means according to the law and not according to subjective experiences. Okay, according to the law, what does childhood mean? So I'm going back to my slide, and I hope you can still see my slide. Good. So use this slide to explain to them what childhood means. Now, by the law, anyone under 18 is a child. Anyone under 18 is a child. So it's not a matter of, you know, I've been asked to work on the farm, or for me, childhood means that once I'm done, when I go to school and I come back home, I have to help my parents on the farm or whatever it means. No. Here you use the law to explain and get the learners to understand what childhood means. So childhood means, according to Ghana's Act, and you can refer to your facilitator notes, according to Ghana's Children Act 1998, Act 560, childhood means anyone under the age of 18. Then you relate this to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, and you explain that this convention or this framework is what got all nations or all countries all over the world. And here there is a riddle. So who can guess the riddle? Which country was the first in the whole world to agree to follow the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child? Answers in the chat box. I wish I had Tofis here. Who can guess the answer to this riddle? Is it the first one anyone is hearing about this riddle? The room is cold. Am I the only one here? The room is cold. Who wants to answer the riddle? Jeffrey. Jeffrey, I can see your face. Do you want to try? Wow. Someone says Ghana. Do we agree? Really? Can Ghana be the first in the whole world to ratify this? Are we surprised? Or we should go with this answer? Okay, come again with the riddle. The riddle is on the slide, unless you can't see my screen. But the slide says, guess which country was the very first in the whole world to agree to follow the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child? Should we go with the assertion? Wow, someone says United States of America. It's surprising. Can it ever be Ghana? Someone has made given a daring answer that Ghana. Wow. Can Ghana be the first country? UK. Now I'm getting responses. Okay. I wish everyone could guess. Be your learners. What do you think your learners will be saying here? Some will be saying Sweden. Some will be saying Dubai, Britain. Okay. Awesome. So the answer is Ghana. The answer is Ghana. Thank you very much. The answer is Ghana. The one who answered, I owe you toffee. So Ghana is the first country to ratify the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. So this is a big selling point for us. And it means that as a country, we must be big on keeping children safe and respecting that a child is one who is under 18, but it has implications. And you also explain that the convention alongside Ghana's Act outlines some rights that children have and responsibilities that come with it. And here you want to set the distinction, or you want to set a clarity. You want to clearly explain the difference because of time quickly. Here you give them a group activity. So they form small groups. Here, the purpose of this activity is that you want to clearly explain that even though they have rights as mandated by the law as a child, and you can list some of the examples of the rights, but that's the purpose for this activity. So before you even say the rights, allow the learners, because this is something they've done in social studies. Okay, so they might have some fair idea of whatever you are going to say, unless of course they are very young, or your learners are very young and they might not know. But if they know, here you want to explain what rights are. So rights are things we deserve, and responsibilities are things we need to do. So based on the initial activity, you put them into groups, and then you give each group a sheet of paper. And on that sheet of paper, you ask them to demarcate. So rights on one side and responsibility on the other side. So they write one right. Of course, they write one right. And then they write a corresponding responsibility. For example, if they believe that it is their right to have a quiet space during library hours, what is the corresponding responsibility? I hope we are getting it. So if it is my right to have a quiet space, what is my responsibility? Here, you let them understand that they owe others that same respect, or they have to respect other people's rights as well. And that comes in the place of responsibility. So even though you have the right to a quiet space, you also have a responsibility to be silent if there are no library, or if it's not a time for literacy sessions and so on and so forth. If you are using the space, it is your right to have a quiet space, then it's your responsibility to be quiet. So here in that group activity, the learners will map out some rights and its corresponding responsibilities. So you make sure it matches, right? That is the key. And that fosters some critical thinking here. Now, after they've done that, look at step 3. What attributes or behaviors do learners need to embody to fulfill these responsibilities and make everyone feel welcome to use the sports? So here there is an element of inclusion. And we've done a video here. If you have watched the video, you might understand what it means here. But then it's just a small element of keeping sports safe. Because then the idea of keeping sports safe, especially as it pertains to their sports, is so that every learner in their classrooms, everyone will feel welcome. Okay, so apart from identifying their rights and their responsibilities, they must also now try to relate that to themselves in terms of attributes or behaviors that they must portray, okay, to make everyone feel safe and welcome. Please take note that for this activity, it is a stepping stone to this particular activity, which we call the Keeping Sports Safe mascots for our sports. They might not know what a mascot is. So here you have to explain to them what a mascot is. Please, I want to pause to know whether you are following or not. Give me a thumbs up if you are following. In the chat box, please. Cynthia is following. Solomon is following. Daniel, your hand is up. Daniel, take it. I want to pause here because that's quite a number of things. I've said quite a number of things. Daniel, do you have a question? Your hand is up.
I don't have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. At this point, if you have any question, please feel free to ask. If not, we are continuing. All right. So the group activity should be the foundation for this activity, because then they are going to transfer the things they discussed to this particular activity. Now, they might not know what a mascot is. So here, you first explain what a mascot is. A mascot is a character, often an animal, that represents a group. It's a fun and memorable way to show what we stand for. Okay. Now, even on Ghana's coat of arms. What is on Ghana's coat of arms? What animal is on Ghana's coat of arms? Any response in the chat box? It's an eagle. Awesome. Thank you very much. It means you are following. Thank you. So the eagle is an animal, and it has its own significance, all right, or as a symbol. It stands for something. It represents something. Maybe strength, maybe security on the coat of arms. So a mascot is a character, often an animal, that represents a group. So here you want to relay the idea that we are going to have an animal that could represent our group. And this particular animal is or stands for that ideal person who embodies all the attitudes or behaviors that we should portray as people who are keeping sports safe champions. And I repeat, that animal that they are going to choose, okay, should be someone, or you create the impression that that animal should be a character that is an ideal figure. So in Trim, we have or he has no, blame, right? He's just mastering he's observing, he or she is observing all the core aspects when it comes to keeping sports safe. And they are going to transfer their learnings onto this particular activity. So here you have to put them into groups first. And to save you time, you can maintain the groups you created. So you don't have to break out, but maintain those groups. And when you maintain those groups, ask them to discuss among themselves and propose one animal or character. So some of them can say dogs, some of them can say a bird, some of them can say, any reptile. So here is an opportunity for you to have some fun. And once you are done, you can do a quick hand poll. Okay, so each group will present. So group A, let's say they'll present a goat. Group B will present a cow. Group C will present an eagle. Group D will present a dog. Here you can do a quick hand poll. So which one should we go for? And some of them would vote. And here you can encourage them to vote based on the character that makes sense, right? So it could be that they chose a dog. And the reason why they chose a dog is because the dog is protective. So you try as much as possible to let the whole group understand and try to justify why they chose that animal. And it should make sense for the sport. Once they are done, they transfer all the responsibilities that they mentioned around the safeguarding or keeping sports safe mascots. So here, you give them a big manila card, or how do we call that? We call that a cardboard, right? So you give them a big cardboard. Then you invite a learner who is good at drawing to come forward, or anyone at all can volunteer, so far as the will is there, to come forward, and then they do a sketch. Okay, because of time, they don't have to waste time. They can just do a giant sketch, and then can write around the sketch all the things, the practical things that they think your safeguarding mascot. So in the example that we have provided on the slide, we can see something like, be like Kwame, our keeping sports safe champion. Okay, be like Kwame, our keeping sports safe champion. So here they can write all the things that they believe someone who is a keeping sports safe champion should embody and should portray, all the behaviors, all the attitudes. All right, any questions at this point? Any questions at this point? Any questions? Any questions? The place is silent. Any reflections? Gloria, how do you feel? How do you think that the learners will feel if we have the safeguarding, the keeping sports safe mascots, depending on what your community come up with? How do you think they will feel after they hang this at the spot? Because the concluding part, because you will not have time to, perfect it. In other words, add color, make it beautiful. You can give it to a learner to, add the finishing touches, right, after the session. But then my question is that how do you think they will feel after this comes up? Do you think it will make any impact at all?
I think they will have something to identify with, taking that is coming directly from them. It's wonderful. They will have something to identify with, and it will actually remind them often what we are going on about.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing, Janet. Katz is saying something in the chat box, and probably we can use 1 minute to discuss. Question for everyone: should Kwame be our safeguarding mascot collectively, or should we create a new storybook with a new mascot? Perhaps AC the elephant. What do we think about this suggestion? Community-led. We always are big on you contributing and informing our decisions. So it will be good for us to have some reflections here. Kat is asking whether it will be good for us to have a story like AC the Elephants. We should create a new storybook like we've done for Kwame's Adventures that tells something around keeping sports safe. Or everyone should have Kwame as safeguarding mascot. So Madam Khadija and Zambalun will have Kwame, or you come up with your own, or we'll have a story here. So what do we think? Please, quickly, let's share some thoughts. Any thoughts here? Joseph Kwabnahin, Mr. Joseph, today we've not heard from you.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. Yes, please go ahead.
I think what Kat is asking, for diversity's sake, I'm thinking that everyone should have a unique mascot for his or let me say their community.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else? So we all should have
for diversity's sake.
All right, Kat, do you want to come off mute and Kat, do you want to come off mute and add some voice to this?
No, I'm just throwing in curious questions. We can pick it up another time. Basically, it was your idea, Lawrence, that we could create a storybook around some of these keeping spot safe themes, and was just wondering if that could be a continuation of Kwame. I think he's due to fly into Kalpohin's spot next, but we're looking for the community after that, and maybe the story could be based around safeguarding, or maybe we need an alternative narrative. I think we can take this another time. Sorry for derailing your resource.
Interesting. All right, so that's something we are thinking about, of having a keeping spot safe story. And I think Wadud has also made a good point regarding the perception that Kwame is a mystical, adventurous creature. And for that matter, it will be good for us to have another character or allow sports to create their own mascots, which will be easier for the learners to relate to, because that's something. So Atongo, our keeping sport safe champion, won't be bad. Anyway, can we continue? All right. So after we've done the mascots, we are almost done. Now it's time for us to watch the video. Okay. And I've uploaded this video on the WhatsApp feed. Please make sure you download the video. We might not have time to. Let's watch something small, like 1 minute, and then to refresh ourselves.
Hi, my name is Jane, and I am Willie. We want to talk to you about child.
Please, can you hear? Or can you see the video?
Yes.
All right, so let's watch a small portion. Okay.
Child abuse. Child abuse is any bad treatment of a child. The following are common types of child abuse. 1. Physical abuse. A child who is abused physically may show fear of certain adults, become sad and sit alone, or even have trouble sleeping. He or she will show signs such as cuts and bruises, fractures, burns, and injuries to parts of the body where accidents are not easy to happen. Neglect is another type of child abuse. This is when people who should take care of children, such as parents and guardians, fail to do so. Every child is entitled to basic care such as food, clothing, medical care, shelter, and education. Children who are neglected are always hungry, may come to school late, or fail to attend school altogether. Children can also be sexually abused. Sexual abuse is when a child is made to participate.
Awesome. So because of time, we can't watch all. But then I want to clarify here that when we get to the ending, now this video is adopted. Okay, it's adopted. And we are hoping that in future we'll be able to create our own video for EduSport. So please pay attention here. When it gets here, you realize that Kenya will pop up. I know Marsh is here, Marsh Foundation. Charles is here. It's good that we are drawing from our colleagues in Kenya. But please, we are in Ghana. So for those in Kenya, this is a perfect video. But then for those of us in Ghana, here you might want to end where it says Kenya.
You can also call 1.
I wish we could cut it off, but then that wouldn't we wouldn't be doing justice to the one who has graciously done this beautiful video. So please, when you get to this point, try as much as possible to either clarify if you forget before the learner starts calling 116. So I just thought I should clarify that here. So you could probably end the video
be
here.
helped.
You could probably end the video somewhere here. Please, I hope this is well accepted. Is this well accepted or well received?
Well, yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for your understanding.
But I think that, as you said, for being academic honesty, when we adopt, we give the credit to the one who made the video for them to understand.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So with time, EduSport will get there. We'll also have our video. So don't worry. We did for you. Awesome. So this session, you show the video. Okay. So you show the learners the video. You know, so here, if you look into your facilitator guide, you realize that you need a video. You are watching a video. So you need a speaker to amplify the sound because you are doing that with all the learners in your school. So you need a speaker to amplify the sound. Of course, you need your projector. So please make sure that you make this arrangement ahead of time as part of your preparation. If you're struggling to get these devices, then I encourage that you can use the tablet if your sport has a tablet. So you can put the learners into groups and ask them to watch the video. So this is kind of a refresher for them. So or if you have your personal phone, but here I want to relay that you have to be sensitive. Once the learners have used your phone to watch the video, you take it back so that they don't browse into areas we are not expecting them to. So you can so after they've watched the video, you don't tell them the responses, but you ask them to reflect. So here they pay attention and they tell you, use this as your discussion prompt. And here you can put them into groups to do this. Maintain their groups because of time. So what is child abuse? Where can abuse happen? What are the common types of abuse and examples? And they can get these, they can give you responses based on the video that they watch, and the answers are already there. All right. Now you explain what child abuse means when it comes to EduSport. So in EduSport, child abuse occurs when a child is harmed in any way by an adult or another child. So you look at the dynamics by an adult or another child. So child abuse in EduSport is not only an adult hurting a child, but when another child also hurts you, that is an abuse. So you have to use this to explain what child abuse means at EduSport. Here, they might have explored, or they should have explored, the areas when it comes to child abuse. So in EduSport, you relay that in EduSport, when we talk about child abuse, we mean physical, we mean emotional, we mean sexual abuse and exploitation, we mean commercial exploitation, we mean neglect. Sorry. So these are the core areas, and you draw their attention to it. So you explain what abuse means, and then you use this particular slide to explain to them the various aspects or the various forms in which abuse can take place and why this is unacceptable in EduSport. Awesome. Now, here you put them into 4 groups. Okay, you put them into 4 groups. Now, I envision, okay, let me quickly ask. Let's try and figure something out. If the groups are too large, it will affect the depth of conversation, right? So what do you suggest we do? For example, if you are dealing with 50 learners and you are putting them into 4 groups, what that means is that 50 divided by 4 is what? Someone should help me. My math is not mathing. 50 divided by 4. That will give us how many in a group?
About 12.5.
That's the decimal. Maybe one child will divide themselves into 2. So
some groups will be 10 and some groups will be 12.
Okay, some will be 10, some will be 12. Okay, yeah. Do you think that will be effective? Do you think that will be effective?
Yeah, 12. I think it's a large number.
Okay.
Yeah. So concentration will be absent. Some will be present, but the mind will be absent, and we call that presenteeism.
Okay, that's a new term. Okay, so what should we do? What's the way forward? How do we think we can navigate ourselves out of this situation? Because we have just 4 scenarios, and if we have a large group, what it means is that it means that I see that it could be that some learners, so what will be an ideal number? What would be an ideal number for the scenario discussion?
I think 6
Charles,
will
do you
be
want to say something?
Oh, sorry.
6.
Yeah, I think 6 will
Please
be.
go ahead.
If the number is too big, I think I'll pair them in twos. They share in twos.
Okay, twos. First you said 6. You also said 2. So
I said 6, and then 2. If the numbers are too big, they can just pair and share information among the 2 of them pairs, so they're able to speak. If the numbers are not very big, I'll do like 6 maximum.
Interesting. All right. So what we are saying is that you are going to have large numbers. Yeah, Madam Janet, go ahead.
So if the scenario is 4, we can divide the group, the 12 into 2, and then give 2 group the same scenario. So there might be 8 instead of maybe 4 groups. And instead of 4 groups, should be 8. So 2 group will have 1 scenario. They will share the same. Yeah, I think that one too would do. So that you have the 4. Yeah, thank you.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Madam Janet. So that is why it is important that you meet before the training as catalysts to plan. Okay, now it is sensitive. So they are going to discuss scenarios. And we are hoping that on each table, there will be a catalyst to ensure that they stay on track. Okay, so depending on the number of catalysts you have, here you could apply some facilitation skills. So the catalyst should not stay on one table. If you have, for example, about 8 groups, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. So you divide yourself, let's say 4 catalysts. So yeah, so 3 here, 3 here, you know, and the catalyst moves around, not staying at one place. So you go here, you listen to the conversation ongoing, and then you move to the next table, you listen to the conversation ongoing. That is how we want it to be, so that you guide the sensitivity that comes with a particular scenario that they are discussing. Please, I hope this is well received. You can give me a thumbs up. We are almost done. Okay. Because of time, ideally we should break into breakout rooms to discuss these scenarios. But because of time, let's just walk through it. So we have 4 scenarios. The first scenario is the case of teasing and nicknames. The second scenario is the case of Atongo and the cane. The third scenario is the case of Amma and the school shoes. The fourth scenario is the case of Hilda and the gifts. Okay, now each scenario is related to 4 main aspects of child abuse: sexual harassment or sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, and neglect. Okay, these are the 4 main bits, and the scenarios are related to them. Scenarios, and then you give them the discussion prompts. So when our regional coordinators visit us, we are likely to come with some printed or laminated copies of the scenarios to aid in the discussion. So of the scenario on the table for them to be able to discuss using the discussion prompts. Okay, let's continue because of time. Now, after they've done the discussion, is that you want to now take some reflections. Okay, so you want to ask them using the discussion prompts. Each group can probably say something, and here you have to be creative in how that you facilitate the in the facilitator guide. You'd also see an approach that has been given as to how well you can facilitate the discussion. Now, in the facilitator guide, we have kept in there the key learnings. Okay, so for example, if you take the case of Hilda and sexual abuse, okay, the key learning there is that And here you have to be abreast, or you have to master the content so that you guide discussions. And please, let's be mindful of sensitivity here. The key learning is that grooming often involves gifts, secrecy, and changes in behavior. Now, in Ghana, when we say grooming, what does it mean? I want to take some reflections here. It's very important we understand this. In Ghana, when we say grooming, what does it mean? In Ghana, when we say grooming, or in Kenya, when we say grooming, what does it mean? When you hear grooming, what comes to mind?
Looking smart and clean.
Looking smart and wow. Looking smart and clean. Okay, caring for. I'm grooming you. I'm caring for you. Okay, Ernest, I've not heard your voice today. Are you with us? Ernest, Rutherford. It means training. Thank you, Mr. Solomon. In Ghana, when we say grooming, it means nurturing. Festus, thank you very much. It means training. It means nurturing. Who else? Okay, but then in the context of keeping sports safe, okay, just to add to preparing someone for a purpose. Interesting. That's a good observation. So, but then in the context of keeping sports safe, back to my slides. For example, when you take Hilda and the gifts, the key learning is that it could be that someone is grooming Hilda. And in the context of grooming here, we are saying that the person is kind of preparing Hilda for a sexual act or trying to win Hilda's trust in the wrong sense. Okay, so you have to understand the key learnings or what we want to draw the learner's attention to. So here, grooming often involves gifts, secrecy, and changes in behavior. So you try to let the learners know that as a risk, okay, or in the case of Hilda, there could be a possibility when it comes to abuse or identifying abuse or identifying potentialities for abuse that Hilda is being groomed. And here, grooming means preparing that child for something which is unacceptable or inappropriate. And the process with which they are doing that is trying to win Hilda's trust and confidence in them through snacks, through the toys they are bringing to school. For example, Hilda has been, you realize from the scenario that Hilda is being secretive, right? So you pick out instances from the scenario and you build on that. But most importantly, drawing their attention to the things that they must begin to identify as practices that could be potentially harmful or practices that could be leading them into some sort of abuse. Okay, so please refer to the facilitator notes for the key learnings. Okay, now here we look at in any situation of abuse or neglect, what should learners do? All right, so we are going to practice what we are to do here. Okay. Now, here you realize that if you look carefully at the slides, you realize that at the topmost or at the left corner, at the top, you see speak up, pass it on, safe spot starts with you. Speak up, pass it on, safe spot starts with you. Okay. Can we all put on our camera? If you can. Now I want to see everyone's face. If you can put on your camera, please. Just for a minute. Just for a minute. If you can put on your camera, that would be helpful. I can see Mr. Kofi Boydi. I can see, wow, Joseph, I can see you. Festus, I can see you. Ramat, I can, if you can put on your camera, I can see you. I want to see faces. Okay. Rita, I can see you. Awesome. Beautiful. Ramat, I can see you. Mr. Solomon, I can see you. Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, if you look at here, when you have now you are explaining to the learners, in the case of abuse and neglect, what should you do? We want to practice the chant. Now, for example, speak up. Pass it on, safe spot starts with you. Okay, now all of us should come off mute. I want you to come off mute. I want you to come off mute. Come off mute. All of us come off mute. Okay. So can we say it together? Can we say it together? Speak up. Can you repeat after me? Speak up.
Speak up.
Speak up. Pass it on.
Pass it
Pass
on.
it on.
Pass it
Pass
on.
it on.
Safe spot starts with
Safe
you.
spot starts with you.
Safe spot starts with
That's
you.
with you.
You realize that this is very weak, like it's weak. There's no vim inside. I want to feel some energy, Edisport vibe in it. Okay, so we are going to try again. Speak up.
Speak up.
Speak up.
Pass it on.
Pass it
Pass
on.
it on.
Safe spot starts with you.
Safe spot starts with you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Now wait, we are not done. Don't put off your camera yet. So once they say the chant, they should add actions. So I want anyone at all to give us, I don't know whether you can see someone's screen, but I want anyone at all to give us the action to go with speak up. Speak up. Speak up. Anyone at all.
Speak up.
Speak up. Speak up. Speak up. Speak up. Pass it on. Okay, someone is Rita, do you want to give us pass it on? What should we do for pass it on? Speak up. Pass it on. What should we do? Oh, I can't see the pass it on. No. Pass it on. What should we do?
You can use your finger.
You can use your finger to pass it on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pass it on.
So speak up. Pass it on.
Pass
They
it.
can. Safe spot starts with you. How do we do the safe spots? Safe spots. Safe spots. I can do something like safe spots. Start with you, right? So you, should it be me or it should be the other person?
So you point to someone to point to you.
Okay, interesting. So you point to someone, and the other person also what? Points to you.
Point.
So in this part of the training, this is what we are going to do with the learners. We are going to practice these chants so that it sticks in their memory. Okay, and you add body actions. So here you practice the chants, and then you invite a learner to do the action, and then all of them imitate or model the action. Please, I hope this will help.
Yeah.
So with time, we are hoping that this will not stick there. But then even in their clubs, for example, when you want to start with your Edulate club, you can do some of the actions. Or when you want to start with your Ignite Equity club, you can do some of the actions so that it sticks with them. Speak up, pass it on, safe spot starts with you. So it should be a chant. You should add vim and action. All right. Thank you very much. You can put your camera off now. You can be muted now. Thank you very much. So here you pick it one by one. Now, if you look at the bottom, so here you pick it one by one, and then you explain to them what they should do in each instance. So this one, speaker, pass it on, safe spot start with you. Please be muted now. Thank you very much. So this one relates to something like physical abuse. Okay. So in the case of physical abuse, you speak up, you pass it on, you pass it on. And in Edisport, when we say pass it on, it's another phrase for report. Okay, so instead of saying report, now we are saying pass it on. It's part of branding. So let this stick in the learner's head. Pass it on, pass it on, pass it on, pass it on, pass it on. 100 times, pass it on. Then they speak up. So if you look at the prompts, because of time, if you look at the prompts, we have explained what to do in each instance. The next one says, no hit zone. Don't suffer it. Pass it on. No hit zone. So here you practice the chant. You add the explanation of what it implies. So in Edisport, no corporal punishment from Edisport Catalyst, no use of cane, no beating anyone, no, you pummel. You don't pummel or push or, no, we don't want that. So you explain to them. And if it's normalized, especially for school-based sports, if it's normalized, encourage the learners to pass it on to the project leader. Or if they report constantly and nothing is being done, please let them know they can call the Edisport's safeguarding contacts. We trust our catalysts. We trust all of you. We know that you do the right thing. We know that no child will call this number to say that I've reported to my head teacher and nothing is being done, or I've reported to my project leader and nothing is being done. We know that the learners will not do that. They will not do that because you are trusted Edisport volunteers who will be good representatives and ambassadors of our Keeping Sports Safe agenda. So please let's ensure that we are building the confidence in them and getting them to a place where they can trust and approach us and come to us anytime they suffer any form of violence or whatever it might be. Here it says, stop, walk, talk, be strong, and don't belong. So this one involves teasing, or when they are being teased or when they are being emotionally abused. And we have mapped out some practical things they can do. So if the child is being teased, instead of engaging the bully, right? Here is more of an upstander intervention, not a bystander. Instead of, you can train the learners to be upstanders. When they see something happening, what should they do? How should they respond? So here, if you see someone being bullied, what should you do? There are practical ways. So you go through the slides and then you get to appreciate what is required. So for example, in the case of a child who is being bullied, instead of that child engaging the bully, that child should stop engaging with the bully. What should they do? They should walk away. But before they walk away, they can say something like, I don't like that, or stop it. Then they walk away. Okay? And if teasing escalates into threat, violence, or makes you feel unsafe, remove yourself from the situation immediately. They shouldn't engage. So you can also go through this. Then finally, recognize and avoid. Recognize and avoid. So here it deals with issues like sexual abuse, right? So are they able to identify instances of grooming as you draw from the scenario? So here, your responses or the explanation that you are given builds on the scenario that you gave to the learners. That should be the foundation. And by this time, they should have come up with all the things that are happening using the discussion prompt. So you wouldn't be wasting much time here, but you'll be going into details as to the specific and practical things that they should be doing in instances of abuse. Okay, say no and speak up. All right, so because of time, let's continue. Here, please clarify to learners that they shouldn't investigate any instances of abuse. Instead, they should pass it on, right? So if a learner comes to realize, if a learner realizes that Hilda is not, Hilda is found in, dark places or secluded places at night, that learner wouldn't say that I'm going to that to spy on what Hilda is doing. That learner should immediately pass it on. But let's not also create the perception that we want learners to be paranoid or always suspicious of what other learners are doing. That's not the impression we are creating. But let's point out to specific things like they watched in the video that seem to suggest that this is something that probably my friend is, going through, and I think as a good friend, I should pass it on. And it's part of, the values that we want them to embody through the mascots. So everything adds up. Then here you display the police service, the fire service, ambulance. In case of emergencies, these are the things that they should do. Okay. Now, please, let's pay attention here. I know we've gone beyond time, but these are very important and we must all have a good understanding of it. Now, previously, we had just one keeping spot safe reporting procedure. But then upon consultation with head teachers and some of us, we've come to realize that it is important for us to have two different reporting procedures, because then the dynamics are different. For example, instances happening at school-based sports, what should take place? Instances happening at community-based sports, what should take place? And I think this has also emerged from some of our Reignite local events where I personally observed some of the sessions. So please, let's take note of the reporting procedures. For school-based sports, if anyone is in immediate danger, call the police. If anyone is in immediate danger, call the police, depending on the situation, fire service or ambulance. If you are a catalyst, learner, or parents, now you realize that here we are involving parents because we believe that parents play an integral role in keeping sports safe, and it ties to the community itself. So if you're a catalyst, if you're a learner, or you are a parent, and you have a concern, if it is a school-based sport, you pass it on to your head teacher. Okay, you pass it on to your head teacher because according to GES policy, during school hours, the head teacher is the main point of call when it comes to ensuring that every learner is safe. And as catalysts, we don't want to go past the head teacher to do what we want. And the head teachers must be actively and thankfully, most of us are head teachers, or some of us here are head teachers. So the head teacher must be actively involved in the process. When the head teacher receives the concern, Okay, they will also pass it on according to the GES reporting procedures. In line with GES reporting procedures. So it says they will listen to your concern, offer support, and pass the information on about the incident in the right way, in line with GES policy and our safeguarding policy. So if the issue also involves if the issue is one that EduSport must be aware of, we will surely meet all head teachers through our regional coordinator visits and get them to also appreciate this particular reporting procedure. And they will also pass it on to the EduSport safeguarding lead, who is Kennedy. Kennedy, I think at this point I should allow you to explain further for us. I think I've been doing much of the talking. Kennedy.
Yeah, nice.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yes, so I was even typing out my closing remarks on the page once we are done. If you witness an abuse or a report of an abuse is sent to you as a catalyst, or as a catalyst, whether with a school or a community-based sport, we want to know. So we have provided, if you have followed the various WhatsApp page, we have provided a number. I will share it again at the end of this workshop, that you call us. We want to have a record of that abuse or reported abuse so that we'll be able to help manage it. Yes, so I will share that number with all of us again on the platform once this workshop is done. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kennedy. Kennedy, do you want to take us through the community-based sports, please?
Lawrence,
the reporting procedure for this.
Just really, really quickly on this, on on our safeguarding policy, that we're going to be sharing our safeguarding policy, which includes a bit more detail on the follow-up for head teachers and what information may or may not be shared with EduSpots, that we're really keen to get head teacher reflection on the next spot visits. If I can just share my screen really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, Kat, you can do that.
It's currently disabled. Sorry.
So I want to make you hosts. Should I make you hosts?
I think it's just screen enabling.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, we're just really aware that there are different types of actions that might have different levels of response. And we're doing quite a lot of work just to clarify like what level of incident the safeguarding report might relate to and what the particular response might be for each one. And so, yeah, once this is finalized, we'll be bringing copies to all the spots on the learning trips, particularly for the school-based spots where it's more complex due to the relationship with GES. So we'll be looking for all of your input on this, but clearly some of you might be wondering, are you going to be calling up Kennedy every single time a student sort of badmouths another student? So I think we need to be a bit clear on the level of concern that a report might warrant a report. So we'll be coming back to you more on that. Though I'm sure Kennedy he would always be there to advise you if there is a very low level of an abuse, and I'm sure Kennedy will always give good feedback on that. But obviously we need to have a sense of proportion on this and also give you details of what the follow-up is. And just to be clear, the follow-up, whether it's a school-based spot or a community-based spot, it will always be to return to the community for their own approach to this. So within a school, the head teacher is going to be the best person to resolve any case of abuse, and the same thing in a community, that the community committee are always going to be the best people with that local knowledge. But we as an organisation will always support you, and that there will never be any sense of, if a report comes through, that this would potentially harm your spot in any way. In completely the opposite case, if there is something that happens and we're not aware, that's where it might be a breach of our safeguarding policy. So please do lean on staff, and we'll give more advice on exactly the kind of details of disclosure and the element of confidentiality on this. So the safeguarding procedure will be coming on spot visits for your closer read. Thanks. I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, Kat, for that clarity provided. Thank you. All right. So, so please, as Kat mentioned, our regional coordinators will be doing the spot visits, and when they come, they will come with printed copies of these particular posters. So if it's a community-based spot and you are a catalyst, then your project leader becomes your first point of contact when you are reporting or passing on a safeguarding concern, and then that project leader would also follow due process or procedure or diligence or do due diligence in passing that on to Kennedy, who is our Keeping Sports Safe lead at EduSports. All right. So to wrap up your session, EduSports is going digital. In fact, we've gone digital. So it's good for learners to also appreciate that the digital space is a world on its own. Okay, it's a world on its own. And today, most of our learners have smartphones, you know, and some of them are on social media already. They know what TikTok is. Some of them are already becoming content creators. So here, you want to relay the idea that when we talk of spaces, it's not only in-person space, but the internet, even though it's a wonderful tool, is something that we also have to use responsibly. Now, you realize that, of course, this overlaps with some of the contents they are doing in ICT and so on and so forth. But we have particularly looked out for things that are currently affecting learners and put them into harm's way. Okay, so here, you can first start with a quick discussion or, you know, quick explanation, of, you can quickly explain the key terms. When we talk about cyberbullying, what does it mean? Even the word cyber, what does it mean? If you look into your facilitator guide, I've kept the definition of what cyber means there. It refers to the internet, the space where we connect with friends, play games, download music, and more. So you have to master the content again. So you quickly explain or define the key terms: cyberbullying, online predators. When we say someone is a predator, science, integrated science, pre and predator, right? You can sometimes do transfer of knowledge. So online predator, who are they? People who try to take advantage of children online and inappropriate content. So these are some online risks. There are quite a number of them, but as I mentioned, these are some of the things we've come to realize that our learners must be aware of, because these are the most prominent or the most prevalent, so to speak. So here you want to do a quick discussion. By now, time will be far spent. If you are able to mediate or regulate your time well, you might have some time to do this. But if not, you want to do a quick discussion of some of the ways we can protect ourselves from online abuse, scams, and viruses. Depending on the category of your learners, you realize that some of them will apply learnings from ICT to give you some responses. And quickly, once you have gotten some responses, you build on that to share these tips. So here it can be very quick, but then you also take time to ask them to reflect so they can stop and think. Or you can also, if you look into the facilitator notes, you can share the tip and call one learner to explain why it is important for us to never share intimate photos with anyone and speak to a trusted adult if someone shares them with you. So here, it's either you call the tip and then you ask them to stop and think, then you ask another learner to explain. And here, if you look at your facilitator note, we have explained that you can use an alphabet game to do this, just as I've been doing in this session. For example, I call you and I say, call someone you love to explain why. So you can use that approach. You can use the alphabet approach. If your name starts with C, a random alphabet approach, I want you to explain why this is important. If your name starts with Q, I want you to explain why this is important. So you run through the tips one by one using this approach to make sure that everyone, you know, is immersed and understand what this implies. And after that, you open the floor for question and answers. At this point, I've also opened the floor. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you have any reflections, feel free to ask as we bring the session to a close.
Just a small concern. When you're doing the feedback from the students and the reporting, do the schools have like counseling teachers who are able to maybe direct a child who's emotionally disturbed to a counseling teacher, or what is the procedure for that one? Thank you.
Thank you. So that was Charles, right? Charles, if I get your question right, you are asking whether the schools have a liaison or an officer to handle issues of abuse. Is that the case?
Yes, and counseling.
Yes, rightly so. Thank you very much. So at the beginning of the session, we started by saying that as part of your checklist, and I encourage all of you to reference your facilitator notes, you have to pre-inform the school's guidance and counseling coordinator and the girl child coordinator in your school and get them actively involved in the session. You can invite them, if they are not catalysts, you can invite them to your pre-training briefing and also give them the resource to go through to even vet, okay, and discuss so that they are actively involved. And I've also mentioned that while you are going through the training, now one key principle when it comes to delivering a keeping sport safe training is that there is an element of confidentiality but transparency. In other words, if a child discloses sensitive information, you don't leave it there. In the training, whereas you don't address the issue there and then, you find a way of creatively directing it away, you must also follow up with that learner. You must also follow up with that learner, right? And in some training sessions, if a child discloses a sensitive information, you want to pick that up. For example, in the training session, unfortunately, a child blows up and says, okay, you know, I've been sexually abused before, excuse me to say. You want to pick that up, but confidentially, you want to pick that up and follow up to make sure that that child is actually safe, right? And that is why it is a good place as a school-based sport for you to involve the girl-child coordinator and the guidance and counseling coordinator. Charles, I hope this answers your question.
Very, very well. Thank you.
Any other reflections? Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
Okay, please.
Yes, Mr. Gabriel.
Yeah, I want to ask, who are the target learners we are going to train? Will it be the whole sport users or some group of learners?
Okay, Constant, your hand is up.
I also have a question. On the average, how many hours or minutes is this facilitation supposed to take place?
Thank you very much for your question. Okay, so I'll take Gabriel. So Gabriel, ideally we are targeting all learners. We are targeting all learners. We hope to have, you know, gotten resources that could be modified for the early years, right? But then for now, we are targeting all learners in the school. I know that that might not come across as being practical to an extent, right? Or realistic to an extent. But then if, for example, Gabriel, you are a school-based sport, isn't it?
Yes, please.
Yes. So this session can probably focus on, let's say, upper primary. If you are going strictly with this session, it can focus on upper primary up to JHS. If you want to address lower primary, you might want to pick up for now, and with time we might design some resources to target early years. But then you might want to pick up some aspects of the training and modify it to be suitable for the early years. Carl says definitely all club members and all active users of the sport. Suggests that you could even use your older learners to roll out sessions to younger learners. So they could the older learners could kind of support the younger learners. So the point is that ideally we want you to deliver this session for all the learners. Currently, even though the training session or the content might be more targeted to, let's say, you know, much more older learners, but you can also tweak for younger learners, and you could also ask your younger, older learners to support the younger learners. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so we'll work on that for the early years. We'll try as much as possible and get a resource out that targets the younger learners.
Okay, thank you, sir.
But then, as Kat is saying, the most important thing is that for early years, they must also learn how to pass things on. So some portions like identifying abuse, knowing instances of grooming, telling them that abuse can happen anywhere. In fact, as a matter of fact, the learners can actually also watch the videos. Okay, they can also watch the videos to appreciate the content and, you know, what takes place. For Constance, your question regarding the duration. Ideally, we are hoping that this session can take about 1 hour 30 minutes, depending on how tight you are on the timing, right? Depending on how tight you are on the timing. And that's why, again, it's important for you to meet before the session and map out at least the timing, right? So you can say this 5 minutes, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, and give each facilitator some time. So ideally, we are hoping that this session can take about, let's say, yeah, 1 hour, 30 minutes, you should be done. Constant, I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Or maximum 2 hours. Any other questions, please? Okay, so Kat has some suggestions. Kat, probably you can come off mute and also add.
There was someone else speaking then. I heard a voice.
Okay, I'm the one.
Gabriel.
Yes, I want to ask, you said our regional coordinators will visit us with some resources. So would they come before we start our training, or we can do it before they come? That's my question.
Oh, okay, I can pick this up. So I think the idea is that at least one session would be observed by the regional coordinators as a great chance to observe a session in action and us also gain some feedback on how well the session goes. But I suggest if you give your regional coordinator a call, they can give you more information. The key thing that might be of interest to Wait is that we are coming, hopefully, with a box of resources to support the training, including sort of new updated post.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I found this on the web for hopefully
Sorry,
with
this
a
is my
box of
Siri
resources
suddenly
to
working
support the
on my-
training.
Sorry, I have a computer in my computer. Yeah, we're hopefully coming with a box of resources to support. So with the facilitator guide printed out and the PowerPoint printed out, and with some of the session elements laminated, like the case studies within this, we're getting some of those printed so that you can give them out to your learners so that that becomes a little easier. So hopefully that's helpful in this process. We're kind of basically creating a keeping spot safe kit, like the EcoSTEM kits for those who receive them, and the EduKits and the EduLit kits that we hope to have across each strand that builds over time. But yeah, talk to your RC about it. But if you're doing multiple sessions with multiple year groups, you might want to spread it out. It depends on your spot.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Festus has a question. No, or it's gone.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, Festus, take it.
Oh, all right. So please, mine is, I believe it's okay to include the health sector, like the SIP compound. We have a SIP compound in our community. I believe we can also link them to this safeguarding.
Yes, Festus,
That's
absolutely.
what I want.
Yes, Festus. Yeah, so what's important, I believe, will be that you have the pre-briefing session with them and also set expectations clearly on what exactly you want them to contribute to. Right.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So you look at the content, you realize that it's particularly designed for a purpose, right? So it's important that you clarify, if you want them to be involved, you clarify what specific ways you want them to contribute to the content. Because I also think that might largely also that can to an extent affect the timing. But we have a session with engaging the community, right? We have in at the beginning of August, you would be engaging the community. So that's also a good selling point for you to involve them. There's also a session where you yourselves as catalysts have your own safeguarding or keeping spot safe training. So you could also invite them to come on board, for example, to orient you on first aid, or responding to emergencies. I believe, I don't know whether the other staff the RCs have some contributions to make here. But I believe that for this one, for me, I would say that given that the content is low, it's good for you to focus on the learners for now and do this among yourselves as catalysts.
Okay. Thank you very much.
RCs, any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, so for school-based sports, just like Lawrence and Cass have highlighted, we are very aware of the schedules in schools. I know that BEC is ongoing and all of that. Please, you also agree with us that safeguarding is very important for all of us, including learners. So please, when RCs contact you, agree with them on a suitable time during the visit for us to have this happen. We want to have the session for learners happening when we are there during the visit. So let's all work together to make it possible.
Interesting. Thank you, Kennedy. Any other questions? We want to close this meeting in the next 2 minutes. Any other questions?
Just a comment. I welcome the RC to Kenya to come and see us doing it. Thank you.
Sorry, Charles. What did you say?
He wants us to go to Kenya to watch him. Aww.
Oh, wow.
Can you give us a camera in your room? Can you film it for us?
Yes.
Aww.
Yeah, I can put a camera.
We will be there one day again for sure.
I'll film it. No worries.
We'll send Kwame over. Lawrence, I just, we've only got 1 minute. I just wanted to say, on behalf of everyone here, a massive thank you to you for all the huge efforts put into the resources. I think all catalysts here can see, as compared to what we've done before as an organization, that these resources are very, very exciting. And I'm very excited to see with the RCs coming to the huge ripple effect of change this can create. I want to say a huge thank you. I don't know how many, quite a few staff left here who've contributed to all the developments, and to Kennedy, who's going to be making sure these boxes come together with all the resources in the next few days as well. So a reminder that Kennedy is the safeguarding officer for EduSpots. There's a number that's been shared on the posters, on these resources. We often share the flyer, and I think if you've got any questions, if you go to Kennedy about it, he'll always be ready to support, whether it's a really low level thing or a high level thing. And I'm also always here to support with any issue on safeguarding. And if you really want to go above us to somebody else, Amjad, the trustee, will share his contact on the page again, so that there's someone independent if you have a concern with me or with Kennedy. We have people above us that we also report to. But just want to say a huge thank you as well to all of you for leading this amazing training. I think you agree this is probably maybe the most important thing EduSpots is doing. We try not to rank things, but if we're not keeping our spots safe, then we really shouldn't be having spots at all. So thank you to all of you for that amazing work. I'm sure we'll go on.
Fantastic. Thank you all for joining. I think time is far spent, but thank you for your patience. Thank you for your active participation. I've enjoyed the session myself. I wish we could go on for another 1 hour, but I'm hungry. So come off mute and give me some EduSpot vibe before you check out. I can see Fad is giving me a thumbs up. So, all right, everyone, good evening. Bye-bye. Before you exit, just scream and exit. You can scream a bye-bye before you exit.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Charles. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Cynthia.
Bye.